Today's session, entitled My Journey, Transformation, and How You Can Change Your Mindset, will be presented by Lynn DelGaudio. Lynn is an integrative health and mind style coach focused on helping empower individuals to improve mind style and live more deliberately. After a traumatic brain and spinal cord injury, Lynn intuitively learned a systematic approach that she later learned was based in neuroscience toward not only healing, but also living a more joyful, purposeful life. In her book, Altered on Impact, Lynn tells the true account of her journey through the injury and healing and offers a practical roadmap to help others in their own mind redesign towards individual transformation, even and especially in times of confusion and chaos. And we all know what chaos is right now. We can find her at www.lynndelgaudio.com. Okay, Lynn.
Thank you, Sandy and Susan, and I'm so excited everybody's here. So thanks for allowing me this opportunity to tell my story and my experience and everything I learned through that experience. While I was going, thinking about doing this talk, I was coming from the framework of pretty exclusively TBI, and then I realized, just like Sandy just said, my story is calm through chaos, and we are all going through so much chaos right now. And the lessons I learned, the strategies I developed for my own healing are actually the same strategies I use with my clients. And they're same strategies that, whether or not there's TBI in your world, everyone can use these to try to get through the chaos of that's happening in our world right now. So I'm just going to share with you my experience and some tools I'll share with you that I've developed, and I hope that I can provide some useful information and maybe even a little inspiration. So my story started July 3rd, 2014, so not quite 6 years ago. And I was an avid runner and cyclist, and I had just finished an 8-mile run, and it was like one of these beautiful North Carolina sunny blue sky days, and I had a 4-day weekend ahead, nothing to do. I was caught up on work. There was absolutely nothing on my calendar for 4 days, which was highly unusual. The only thing I had on my calendar was to take my dog to the park. It was pretty amazing, and I was really looking forward to the weekend, and all the the weather, that forecast that was being proposed by the meteorologist was outstanding. And then on the agenda for the next week, I was going to Connecticut to see my family that I hadn't seen in 8 years. So long overdue reunion. Kind of one of those best day ever feelings, So I was feeling so good, and I was like high on my, my dopamine and my neurotransmitters, and I said, I just kind of want to go work out at the gym a little bit. So I went to the little gym at the community where I lived at the time, and I decided to do some lat pull downs. Now, for those of you that may not know what a lat pull down is, you sit down on a bench, and there's a middle bar above, and it's a pulley system, and you load the weight, and then you pull the bar down. And you can do the front or the rear. So I had loaded about 80 pounds. And on one of the pulls, I'm not sure which one, but on one of the pulls, that entire system snapped. So the bar came smashing into my skull with a force of 80 pounds. And I felt this like swishing, like a snow globe inside my head, like my brain, very bizarre, and felt my head, and it was just the swelling. It was immediate, and I knew there was a flash, and that's like all I know. I did not pass out, but I knew I was in a lot of trouble. So there was no one there at the management office. So I had my phone with me. I called a friend, and he said, put the phone down, call your doctor, because your doctor is a concussion specialist. So I called the doctor, and they said, are you throwing up? Do you have like really bad nausea? Not really. Do you have the worst headache of your life? No. Okay. go home. We can't see you. It's July 3rd. We're closed tomorrow, but get here at 8 a.m. Saturday. It'll be our first appointment. So I guess I monitored myself, went home and monitored my symptoms. Well, by the time I got to the office, of course, Saturday, I mean, she looked at me and she actually laughed when she looked at me. She's like, "Oh yeah, you got a TBI." And I thought to myself, that's kind of odd. Why would you laugh? But I didn't really attach a lot of meaning other than, well, that was a weird response. And at one point she left the room, and I remember looking around, and there's a computer on the desk, and there's a hand sanitizing thing on the wall, and there's a sink, and where the heck am I? I had no idea where I was, but I knew that a minute ago I knew where I was, but I was like fully aware that I wasn't aware at all. It was a bizarre feeling, but I guess she must have explained when she re-entered where I was. And we went through the impact testing, and of course all the impact tests were 0%, except for one that was 5, I think. And they were hard. They were like impossible tests to go through. And I had every classic, I had pain all along the right side. I had a rash was starting that would come head to toe ultimately. I had slurred speech, stuttered speech. And if I do stutter during this, at some point, it usually only lasts like a couple seconds. So forgive me. Blind spots, blurred vision, double vision, slurred speech, like I said, complete like vestibular chaos, memory shot, and on and on and on. So her instructions at the time were just no stimulation, no light, sound, music, TV, nothing. And it was just me and my dog, because I was fairly new to the area, and really I worked remotely and traveled a lot for work, so I hadn't had time to really establish any supportive relationships. So it was really just me and my dog, and you learn to ask for help really fast. So I did, and of course, so I had the TBI injury, but the brain injury was actually, the severity of the injury was keeping me from seeing the severity of the injury, if that makes any sense. So I had a neck injury, and up until about 4 months ago, I was still about 5 degrees off, because the impact like twisted and rotated the axis. And then because of the seated position, it created a hyper shifting in the low back, and then that shifting resulted in the formation of a cyst on my spinal cord. But I had no idea. I just thought, I've got this little thing, head injury, and I'll get past it. So it was just me and my thoughts, because I wasn't allowed any stimulation, and people, and because my family was up north, all my friends mostly were up north. The bank that I worked for at the time was headquartered about an hour and a half south of here. So people would call to check in on me, and it was kind of odd. So many people would just start screaming like, "This is horrible. Aren't you mad? What are you going to do? Are you going to sue? Or this is horrible. You're never going to run again. Aren't you angry? What are you going to do?" And when I heard those words, I know very well intentioned, but there was so much like emotion behind them, and fear and anger, and it literally, I could feel my brain swell in my head, and I would get eye pain and nausea and dizziness. Or if I thought about my mounting medical bills, which were 20 grand within the first 3 to 4 weeks, if I let myself go there, I would literally be re-traumatizing myself, and it felt really bad. So like, first revelation, first tool that I had for myself was, you know what, when I have negative emotions enter, I feel bad. But when I think of like a puppy or the ocean, or I don't know, being on the summit of a mountain and seeing a vista, that feels really good to me. So I'm just going to do that. And so I did this thing called My Favorite Things. And that movie, The Sound of Music, when they're all terrified of the thunderstorm, and she's like, just replace it with, I simply remember my favorite things and I don't feel so bad. And so that was like the first little thing I started doing for myself. Whenever I started to feel like, oh no, this person's mad about this, or oh no, that my bills are mounting, I don't know how long I'll be out of work, or I just replaced it. And then one day I realized I don't have to wait for something to enter my field. I am just here with my thoughts every day. I get to pick. I can select what I want to think about in any given minute of any given day. So I don't have to wait for something negative. I can just think about just something whenever. And that just sounds so simple, but it was kind of really a huge, like, mind-blowing thing for me. And someone one day said, oh, thank God you're doing a rear pull down instead of a front pull down, because that would have been way worse and maybe deadly. And I had never thought of that. But I thought, wow, I'm really appreciative that it happened the way it did. Again, I don't know the extent of the whole thing, but yeah, I'm really appreciative. And I'm really appreciative, of the people at the gym that don't even know me, who are bringing me food and milk with DHEA for the brain, and people who are offering to walk my dog, complete strangers who are showing up. I mean, it was beautiful. I was just so appreciative. And then I realized, oh, it feels really good to be in a state of appreciation. And I would years later, understand why that is and why that's so powerful. And I'll just share it now. So when you're going through anything, you cannot be, in general, you cannot be in two areas of the brain at once. So you cannot be in fear or protection and in a like healing and growing state at the same time. You just can't do it. So by staying in appreciation, you're not in those areas where you're going to be shameful or victimized or angry or judgmental, though or fight or flight. You're keeping yourself out of the amygdala and the PCC, the posterior cingulate cortex. So being in appreciation, I was able to keep myself focused on healing. So there, so these few things now I have developed intuitively, what I would later refer to the first three of these impact imperatives. I've got 6 impact imperatives. So the first one is awareness. I was becoming really, really aware of negative thinking and negative stressors. And that was 3 ways I was doing that was kind of this forced meditative state, because when we meditate, we can identify kind of those thought patterns. 2 was somatic responses. When I let something negative enter my field, man, I felt it. My body was giving me immediate feedback, and I had to listen to that. And then the 3rd was emotions. If something made me feel bad, I knew something was going on up here that wasn't serving me, so I had to shift it. So that's 1. Awareness was number 1, and appreciation was number 2. So there I was going through the healing process, and I started to, when your brain begins to heal, you start to register like new symptoms because your brain's now doing its job better. 2 weeks into it, I started to feel this jolt into my left calf. And I couldn't explain it, but I did bring it up to the doctor when we went back for more impact testing. And she couldn't understand it. And she thought, well, you're a runner, it's going to happen. And I had never had pain like that from running. And to me, I thought, no, this is associated somehow with the injury. It has to be. Now, and so we kind of let it alone, and then I continued along, seeing the 26 therapists, what have you, per week. I can't remember. And it was, 3 steps forward, 6 steps back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. It was kind of a frustrating road. And it was 6 months before they let me go back to work. And when I got back to work, I didn't even know how to do my job. And that was a delicate dance of trying to relearn, but not do so much that I get reconcussed. And by now, and I'm introducing myself to people that I've known for years. And I'm saying things like, I told a coworker, oh, I've got to get cheese on the way home. I'm out of cheese. And I don't eat dairy. And I would say these weird things. This is 6 months later, and I would say these weird things, and I was afraid to be out in public because I didn't know if I was just gonna like write in the book. I thought I would maybe take my shirt off or start peeing in public. I had all these bizarre thoughts going through my head, but I had to keep telling myself, it's just thoughts. You're still healing. Don't make any crazy meaning out of it. But this leg, by now too, I had severe low back pain. I had severe neck and shoulder pain and spasms. And now my hands and arms stopped working. And I had no idea what was going on. So if I was driving to an appointment, and because I never knew when this was going to happen, and so I might be driving to an appointment and my arm seize up. And so now I'm trying to navigate the steering wheel with my wrists and forearms. Not the best scenario, right? So I had to learn to just go on like the roads that were the lowest speed limit. You know, I certainly was not able to drive on the highway at all. So that was bizarre. And that over time went away, but the leg thing kept happening. And I was going to so many different doctors. And over time, I would have like a myelogram and a discogram and a nerve conduction study and all these complicated tools. And no one could figure it out. And so fast forward to April of 2015. So my role at the bank is, I'm the person you don't want to see. So my role is that of a special assets officer. So if someone falls, it goes into default on their commercial real estate debt, I'm the one that at the bank that will either restructure all that debt so that it works for both the bank and borrower, or sue or foreclose. So in this particular case, we were foreclosing on an assisted living home that was abandoned and it was not in good shape. And I was at the property when suddenly I can't breathe and I've got chest pains. Now, one of the symptoms that I had after the initial stages of healing was like this very regular heartbeat. And I was wondering if that was tied, but I didn't think I was having a heart attack. I mean, all I knew is I had to get to the doctor, and they got me in right away. And as she's examining me, now this pain is so bad by now in the left leg, whenever it hits, I scream at the top of my lungs. There's no time to even think. It's like, and when I say like pain, indescribable, like the level of pain, and not even for a second, it was horrific. So she's examining me, the pain hits, I scream, and she said, "What on earth was that?" And I said, it's that pain I've been telling you about, you know, my leg since the injury. And she said, "Oh, we got to get you to the hospital, like right now. We got to do some tests." I said, "Well, can they do it? You sure they can do them today? Because I'm getting on a plane tomorrow." "Oh, no, you're not." "Oh, no, you're not. I think you have a PE." No, I can't have a PE. Like, where's this coming from? So, of course, I go to the hospital and I don't have a PE, but I did contract pleurisy, no doubt from the beaten up assisted living home. And again, once again, my much awaited trip to see my family, now 9 years, is postponed. So I get through that and it continues to worsen and worsen. Now, it's over a year. My vision is about the best as it's going to be. I still have like a lot of pain in my back and neck, and I've still got issues, but I've come a long way. And November 19th, 2015, I was in charge of a very large note sale at the bank, and we were just a couple days from our deadline. And I'm still not driving more than so many miles per day, which means I'm staying in hotels. So I get to the office at about 7:30 one morning, and this pain in the leg is hitting maybe every couple minutes, and I scream, and then I catch my breath, because when it hits, I feel like I've just run a whole football field or two. So my staff arrives around 8, and I said, "You guys, you're gonna hear me screaming. Don't worry, it's just I've got this horrific pain still, and I fall to the floor, but I'm okay." And they must have thought I was crazy, like, "Why aren't you taking care of yourself?" But literally no one else at the bank knew how to run this show. Well, it got so bad by around 11 I said, I got to go lay down at the hotel. I just give me an hour or two and I'll be back. So the hotel is just, you get off I-95 and you take the second right, and then you just hook a left and the hotel's right down the road. Well, I got off 95 and I was so disoriented because of so much pain. I got off the exit, and then instead of taking the second right though, I took the first right back onto 95 in the wrong direction. And the only reason this registered was because people were passing me and out there, like through their windows. And it was almost, I don't want to say out of body, but it was almost like, at that point, it was like me watching myself drive. I mean, I was just, I don't even know. I calmly, thank God there was not a lot of traffic on the road. I calmly turned myself around, got back to the hotel room, and I have two memories of the hotel. I was in my room and I went to look at something and I tilted my head forward. I was standing and I tilted my head forward a few degrees and I had electrocution like jolts everywhere throughout every limb in my body. And when I tell you, that was like the most hopeless, like desperate place I've ever been in my life. And it scared the hell out of me. And I don't remember anything until I was in the lobby with my stuff. And the GM, her name was Lynn as well. She came running over. She saw me and she came running over. Oh my God, what are you doing? I mean, pain was all over me. It must have been, because she just took one look at me and said, what are you doing? Where are you going? Home. No, you're not. No, you're not. What's going on? And I tried to tell her. She said, give me your keys. I handed her, I didn't even ask questions. I handed her the keys. Blair, she calls the front desk person. Now, Blair was a nurse in training and was about to take her boards. And Blair comes over. She said, here's her keys. I want you to drive her home. And Larry, come here, Larry. Larry was the maintenance guy. Larry, you follow them. Get her home. Make sure she's in there safe and sound, and then come back. Go back roads. I want this to be stress-free. So they did it without question. These hotel employees got me in my car. I got in the passenger, I reclined in the passenger side, and Blair, nurse in training, is sitting there telling me stories about her childhood, very, very happy memories, very calmly. And I'm thinking, man, she's going to be such a great nurse. And I see out of the side mirror, I see Larry's following us. We stop at CVS because my doctor said, I want you to get some prednisone in your system fast. So, the pharmacist says, well, you could take all 6 at once, right? That didn't really sit with me well, but I was in so much pain. I took, I don't know, maybe 2 or maybe 3, can't remember. And that was 1 o'clock. They make sure I'm home, they leave. 2 o'clock, no relief at all. 3 o'clock, no relief. I pop a couple more. And now my niece, she had gone to UNC and was living with me at the time. And she comes home at 3:30 and hears me screaming at the top of my lungs, like decibels that we didn't think was possible out of me. Screaming and falling to the ground and then catching my breath because it felt like I just ran a marathon. And then every 10 or 20 seconds, it would hit again. Terrifying, terrifying. Now, I am in a state of mind that my appreciation is out the door. My awareness is out the door. I am in 100% survival mode. I popped the last prednisone. It's 4 o'clock, no relief. I am in agony, like despair and agony, and just a wounded, shrieking animal. And I never would consume alcohol during the day, but I had a bottle of red wine over there somewhere where I lived anyway. And I opened it up and I took a glass and I thought, I don't even know what to do. Like right now, I have no idea. Like maybe this will calm me down. Maybe that'll help things calm down. I don't even know, right? Didn't help. 4:30, another glass. 5 o'clock, took another glass and I said, Marisa, you got to get me to the ER. I have no idea. So here I arrive at the ER. Now I am a shrieking, wounded animal with a wine buzz, and that looks really good at the hospital, right? So the ER doctor is trying his best to ask me questions, but I can't answer because I am in shrieking pain and screaming every 10 seconds. And my poor niece is trying to answer for me. And he was like really extraordinarily rude and insisting that I was in the ER to score drugs. Now, had he looked in the system, he would have known I've never done recreational drugs in my life. But you know what? That was on him. I had to stay clear in here because I needed to survive. So he gave me something for the pain, and he prescribed gabapentin. And I got home, I called my chiropractor to let him know what had happened. My chiropractor had been working with me with light and sound waves, and which was way helpful for the TBI, but he was very careful to be cautious about, because we didn't know the extent of the injury, you know, especially neck and back. But I told him about what happened. He said, you know, this sounds like a classic case of some hyper shifting. And while it's highly unlikely, I mean, paralysis is not out of the question. I did not want to hear that, but that's okay. I didn't want to go there. That made me feel bad. I'm not even going to think about it. So I took it was one tablet per dose of gabapentin, and that worked for about 3 weeks. And then it didn't work anymore. So they said up it to 2. That worked for about 3 weeks, and it wasn't working. Take 3, no problem. Bad idea. Bad idea. That didn't work at all. And I could not go on. So that was it. That was the end of the road for me. And I called my friend Jamie in New York, and I called another friend, and I said goodbye. But thankfully, I stuck at suicide. So that didn't work. But the next morning, I found, I'm really not sure how I reconnected with what little spirit I thought I had left, but apparently my spirit was still very strong, even though my mind and body were kaput, chaos, complete chaos. My spirit was still there in command. And she was saying, this is not you. This is unacceptable. And whatever you need to do, you're going to do it. Today is the day you are going to beg, you are going to plead, you're going to demand, you are going to implore, you are going to do whatever it takes, and someone is going to hear you today. And I did. And I found the one doctor. He said, hasn't anyone taken an MRI of your low back? No? Well, we need that right now. Okay. And there was the cyst that was creating all this horrific pain. And 2 weeks later, I had my surgery. That was a new lease on life. And although I couldn't run yet, I'm still working on that. I ran for the first time in 6 years 2 days ago, just a mile, but it felt good. It wasn't 13 miles, but it was a 1, and I'm happy with that. But I could walk now. And I got back into my appreciation practice. And there were a couple exercises that I found were really helpful. And a lot of my clients love this one in particular. It's called alphabet soup. And you just like say thank you. You look at the sky and you say, thank you, God or universe or whatever, and thank you for my place in this world. And then you just go from A to Z with words of appreciation. So thank you for abundance, and for bestowing and clarifying and developing and listing whatever and fulfilling and helping and guiding and on until you get to Z. And it was just a fun little thing I did. And sometimes I would do it in Spanish. And then there was another one I did. There were 2 trees in the one on each side of the road along one of these roads I walked on, and they created a canopy over the road. And so I would walk toward the tree and imagining that beyond where the trees are is my future. And I'm walking right into my future. And everything behind me doesn't exist. All that exists right here, right now, is every step ahead of me until I get to my future. And it was fun. And I wanted to try to see if I could imagine what that future self of me looked like and felt like. And I knew I wanted to be pain-free, but I was careful not to introduce, I was very careful with my words. So instead of saying, I'm going to be pain-free, I said, I'm going to be whole, I'm going to be healthy, I'm going to be happy. And then I remembered those people who used to call and get so mad that this thing had happened. And I just said, I want to have as much conviction in like an emotion that aligns with this intention as they did in their anger. So I would try to like have like the highest, purest emotion that aligned with whatever intention I was thinking of. And that just became so much fun. And so the more I did these tools, the better I felt. And the better I felt, the more I wanted to continue like to find more tools and more strategies. It just became fun. And, you know, people started to notice. My friends would say, oh my God, that injury was the best thing that happened to you because you're such a better person, which I'm like, wait, was I really that bad? But I wasn't as positive prior to as I thought I was, you know, but, and my boss noticed, and my boss called me one day. He said, can you come on over? I need to have a one-on-one with you, which that's not really what you want to hear from your boss, you know? And I'm thinking, did I do something? Am I getting fired? And I go into his office and he sits down and he says, are you looking for work? New job? No, why? You just seem really happy. Yeah, I'm happy. Yeah. No, but I mean, like, you're really, last few months, I mean, with all this chaos, because we were pre-merger at the time, there's all this chaos and you're just like really steady and happy and you're really productive. Yeah, is there a problem? And he goes, well, even with all the stuff and this chaos and all the decisions David was the CEO, David's making. I said, Rocky, my happiness here or anywhere for that matter isn't conditioned upon or contingent upon the the decisions of the CEO. And he just like took a pen to his lip and he went, huh, And in my mind, I was like, huh, oh my God, I did it. Because it was the same crappy job. It was the same crappy circumstances. It was the same annoying coworkers. But because I've been doing all this other work internally to heal this, you know, I got into a place where my circumstances no longer impacted my state of mind. So I'll wrap it up soon, but I was driving somewhere for work a couple weeks after that, and I was looking for someone to listen to that would be inspiring, and that was another impact imperative: continued learning and practice, because practice and repetition, that's what really rewires all those neural pathways, right? When neurons that fire together, wire together. So I turned on the YouTube and this guy was telling his story, horrific story about an incredibly serious accident he was in when he was 21, and he was on the cycling leg of a triathlon and got introduced, turning a corner, got introduced to a Mack truck that catapulted him 40 feet. They said, you'll be in a body cast for a year, you'll never walk again. And in his mind, he said, not acceptable. If I can walk out of this hospital in 12 weeks, I will dedicate my life to neuroscience. And that's what he did. And that person, I learned for the first time in 2016 or so, was Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I was fascinated because he was explaining a lot of the neuroscience as to why all these things that I was doing for myself, why they were working. And I was like, oh my God, if I can feel this good and there's science behind it, then I can help people. Other people can feel this good too. You know, is it where I was before? No. Do I still have issues? Yeah. Do I still have balance and vestibular and structural and all sorts of stuff? Yeah. Do I care? No. I honestly don't give a rip. I mean, so I don't know. So that's kind of, I was the impetus to, this is my book. I don't know if you can see, Altered on Impact. And when we, before we get to the Q&A, I'm going to ask you guys to, if you're interested in a free copy, I'm going to sign and send to you a free copy, and I'll explain that in a minute. But you guys, thank you so much for allowing me to share my story. That is it. And you can all turn your cameras back on, and we can start the Q&A and go from there. So thank you.
What was the name of the book again?
I'm sorry?
What was the name of your book again?
It's called Altered on Impact. And it's because I was altered structurally, I was altered mentally, and I was very much so altered spiritually during that whole process.
Is it on ebook as well?
Yes.
Okay, because I
It's on Amazon.
I had my TBI. It's been about 7 months ago, and I have to listen to all my books. I can't really read them because I get massive headaches.
Yeah.
So, you can find it in Kindle or no?
No, it's not in Kindle yet. I've had a lot of issues with the ebook, but the ebook should be okay for now.
Where would I find it?
On Amazon.
Amazon, okay.
Said that it was hard to hear that people's negative comments was your first explanation of what happened to you. Got any comments for that?
To me, because I was such mush, like I couldn't really, all I knew was that it made me feel bad. And it just was kind of like, why are they angry? I thought it was really odd. But it just was like, well, that's just bizarre. Because I wasn't angry. And this is not their injury, it's my injury. But I think it was because they were frustrated, they didn't know what to do, and they wanted to try to be helpful. But thank God it was my first, because that's what made me realize that doesn't feel good. I need to do something about it. And that one thing that led me down this journey.
Somebody else said, thank you to Lynn for sharing your story and testimony, that this person laughed and cried and was very gratified for all the resources and strategies that you have shared.
Thank you. I laughed and cried myself. I honestly did try as much as possible to have a sense of humor and to laugh, and to think that I was going to go outside in public and do or say something that made no sense. I mean, when I saw a friend for the first time, I went out to dinner maybe 7 months, well, no, it was March the following year. And I couldn't do it because I would like the lights and the music. I was getting nauseous and dizzy. And a girl came over and said, "Oh my God, Lynn, I haven't seen you at the gym. How are you?" And I said, "I'm sorry." And I had to explain, and people for the most part were okay with that. But I had to try to laugh it off as much as I could. What are you going to do?
Somebody else thanked you for your story and appreciated how you deal with negative thoughts. And that person said they learned from that today that they need to stay away from negative thoughts. And somebody said they missed the beginning of the meeting. And I do want to say that we are recording this, and that recording will be available on our website once we get it processed and edited correctly.
It's really important that not only do I stay away from my own negative thinking, but also I had to tell people, listen, if you're going to call, I can only accept your call if you're going to be supportive and positive. I can't, this is counter to my healing, and that's my priority.